it made me think back to my father. It's just hard for me to imagine. My father, he looked young for his age, which didn't help any, but he turned 18 in June of 1943, a really bad time to turn 18.
Yeah.
And he faced a tough decision, and his dad said, look, if you don't do something, you're gonna be drafted quickly into the Army. So if you want to pick, and I suggest you go into the Merchant Marine, then you should run out and enlist. And you look at his military record, he enlisted on his 18th birthday into the Merchant Marine. Now what my grandfather did not know, or he would have never recommended this, is the Merchant Marine had by far the highest casualty rate of all the branches of service in World War II, because in the beginning of the war, what was going on from 1941 to 43 till 44, it was just back and forth from New York Harbor to Liverpool, right? Back and forth, getting the men and materiel over there for D-Day, right? And so in the beginning, they didn't have protection for the Merchant Marine ships, and the U-boats were just picking them off. And it's just kind of on a miraculous blessing. There was this deal from Congress where every state could appoint 2 people from their state for the Merchant Marine to go to officers training. And my dad had completed 1 year of school at BYU. For some reason, he was a year ahead in school. He had 1 year of college, and he applied for it, and he got it. And so he was one of the 2 representatives from Utah that got to go to officers training. That was just enough of a delay after his basic training that by the time he got assigned to a ship and started making the runs, they were in convoy and they had naval escort. They'd kind of gotten control of the U-boats. And so he spent a lot of those early young adult years back and forth like that. And then when D-Day succeeded, then he got transferred over to the Pacific Theater. Now, a few years ago, my stake did a youth conference that was based on the youth. This was actually quite a few years ago. We were worried about the World War II veterans who were of age where they were dying. And so we had a youth conference that was based on teams of youth interviewing a World War II veteran in the stake and in the neighborhood, and capture the stories that they had been holding in their whole lives. You know, they weren't really talking about what they saw and what they experienced. And so we were giving them a chance in their old age to, you know, tell what they would like to tell. And as it happened, my niece was on the team that got to interview my dad. And my niece lives in an animal kingdom. She's just an animal nut, and that's her world. So when it came to question time, Brianna's like, yeah, Grandpa, do you have any stories from your military service that involve animals? Well, you would think that he'd have to give that some thought, but no, he immediately had one. He said, well, one night, as an officer, he had to take his turn on night watch, right? So you're out on the high seas, and at night it can be really black. On this night, I think they had some moon, because he could see a little bit, but you're watching for anything, and most of the servicemen are asleep, and you can hit a general alarm button, and you can instantly bring everyone to their feet, you know, in emergency mode. And that was his responsibility on night watch if anything bad were to happen. And as he looked over off the bow, he could see these 3 incoming torpedoes. Could just see the fins, you know, and just evenly spaced apart and coming in together straight at them. And he's like, oh my goodness, you know. And he was just about to hit the general alarm when he's like, wait, what am I seeing? You know, and he paused just a little bit, and then all of a sudden they veered apart, and it was 3 dolphins, you know. He would have never heard the end of pushing the general alarm because some dolphins were swimming out in the ocean, you know. So there was a story that involved animals. Anyway, So my dad, gosh, when we look at the photos of him, as an 18-year-old officer, he's a navigator on the ship, you know, and a second lieutenant and part of the officer corps, and he just looks like a little kid. He looks like he's like 14 years old. And it's like, what is a kid that looks that young doing as an officer, you know, off in war, you know, with so much responsibility? But we got to look at his log books. He had to keep a log book of all their navigation, and just his penmanship is just gorgeous, and the meticulous detail and the order of his logs and notes. It's like, wow. I never viewed my dad that way, but anyway, I'm grateful for the wonderful father that I have. This evening I want to share with you some, and we'll be exercising your phones if you have a smartphone. If you don't, you can try this at home because I have a handout for you to take. We have been really prayerfully pondering for several years now in our stake about what is the method by which we can accelerate the gathering of Israel. What is it that we can connect with many of the neighbors around us? When you just hit them straight up about the Book of Mormon, we have a precious volume of scripture, this has changed my life. When they hear Book of Mormon, they'll just flat tell you no. That's the end of the conversation, and now they know that you're trying to convert them to your church. They don't want to talk to you about anything after that. They'll just avoid you. So that does not draw people in when we can't even talk to them. So it's like, well, we need some sort of a starting point where we can engage with them and get them to a point where they feel the Spirit, and let the Spirit start to change, you know, what they think in their head. And so we started feeling like family history was probably that common thread. Anyway, I don't want to make a long story out of this, just shorten it down to, we were inspired to build a little tool that Mike already referred to called the Connected Tempe tool. In Tempe, we use a little postcard. This is a photo of downtown Mill Avenue. The photographer was standing in the middle of Mill Avenue at 3rd Street with his back to the river, facing University, and all these buildings are still there. It's just the sidewalks are in and the landscape, and the buggies aren't there, and the wagons and whatnot. But anyway, so we put that on one side, and then on the other side we have the QR code. The Connected Tempe story is everyone's story that has any kind of connections to Tempe. And what happens when you activate that code on your phone is, I know this sounds impossible, but I'm not lying, you're going to try it tonight. In just 2 minutes, you will discover which early Tempe settlers you're related to and how you're related. Can you imagine? On your phone, in 2 minutes, without logging into anything. You want to try it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's send the handout around. Oh, you have a card?
Yes, please.
Okay, so you should shoot the QR in the upper left as we do Connected Tempe, but we've since built a Connected Mesa and a Connected Gilbert.
Oh, wow.
So bring up the Connected Tempe, and you'll discover this. So if you want to walk through the instructions on how to do it, so this shows you the first screen that comes up, and it prompts you to put in the name of a deceased grandparent. Needs to be needs to be a deceased person, because you can't put in your living parent or whatever, because we're going to run this against Family Search, and you can't view, you know, records of living people.
Did you say
So
How do you do this?
what's that?
How do you do
You activate your camera, turn on your camera.
You gotta
and-
tell us that.
Yep, activate your camera and hold your camera steady over this symbol. And as soon as your camera reacts with popping up a web link, then touch it. Did you get it?
Photos or,
Tempe, huh?
You're not, do you have a camera?
yeah, have a camera?
Turn on your camera.
Oh, okay.
Now just hold it right here on this way.
Mesa.
Let's see, bring up the link.
Hold it steady.
And then hit that yellow thing, that yellow box.
Went to my weatherman.
There it is. Okay, did you get it? Shirley, can you help them with the QR code?
My whole family's from here.
Okay, so when the form comes up,
There.
then there's 4 optional fields. You should try to answer 2 of them. And we usually send the people to the death information because people, we use this in our neighborhoods and just out on the street or in the grocery store. We just hit people up with this and they don't have their book with them of their ancestor records, you know, so they don't know this information off the top of their head. But most people were present at their grandparents' funeral. They remember what state they died in. So when we say place of death, we don't want city and state, we want just the state. We can find them with just the state. And on the dates, there's a date of birth and date of death. We just want the year. So we're asking for almost nothing. But you should just try to do the death information. Do you know roughly the year that your grandparent died? And do you know the state that they died in? So if you can at least get that much in, then go ahead and hit search.
Yes.
Are you putting in a
First
grandparent?
name.
Well, I don't have anybody in Tempe to put in.
No, you don't
Doesn't
need to
have
have
to be in
anybody in
Tempe.
Tempe. So what this is going to do is this is going to walk back your grandparents' tree. It already knows the Tempe settlers and it has their trees. It just needs your grandparent, and then it's going to walk up all those trees until it hits on a common set of grandparents, and then it will show you the cousin relationship that you have to Tempe settlers. So, for example, does anybody here know who the founder of Tempe is?
Hayden.
It's kind of a famous name. Charles Hayden is the father of Carl Hayden, who is still one of the longest ever serving members of Congress. When I was a kid, he was the longest, but I think there's a couple that have surpassed him now. Anyway, Charles Hayden was the founder of Tempe in 1871, and I happen to have a 5th cousin relationship to the founder. Now, it's 5th cousin quite a few times removed, maybe 7 times removed,
State.
but that's a pretty close relationship.
Yes. you
So,
can go down,
but
you
it
know,
goes to show that, you know,
Big
I'm
Nine,
not
Arizona.
I'm not in a, you know, first cousin relationship. You got to go back several generations. Okay, so the first thing that happens after you hit search is a bunch of people come up as possible matches because you entered in such vague information, right? Now you scroll through and find your grandparent and then touch them. And when you touch them, then it will bring up any Tempe settlers that your grandparent is related
Mom's
to.
trying
Do
to
you know
get
about when
me
he
to pay
died?
money now.
What year?
Something's gone wonky with mine.
Where are you at?
Well, okay, I'm gonna back up now. It hit me, it threw me there.
Okay, go back.
She's just trying to remember around the year he died.
There's no back.
Okay, you're not in the app anymore.
Something died. Okay, let me
I
start
don't know
over.
what year it was.
Okay, you're in it. Can you find your grandparent?
Well, I'm trying to figure out which
Born in
one,
1894.
like, I'm probably related to
Was he
all
born in
these guys,
Arizona?
but I don't know for
Okay.
sure.
Okay, so if you want to cheat, then you can actually go into your family tree app, right, and look up your
Oh,
grandparent.
there it is. I just didn't scroll.
If you can't find your grandparent, okay, so you're getting the result.
It's taking me back.
There he is.
Okay, so,
This is my dad.
So I hit
That's
that.
weird.
okay, so he's related to Benjamin Franklin Johnson, who's my 3rd great grandfather.
Let's see.
Wow.
passed away in 2017.
And he's related to Dr. Otis Broadway, one of the 3 town physicians, also Broadway Road, so you're related to Broadway Road.
Related to him.
I don't think my dad's related to
Okay.
anybody.
How do you?
And Burchett is one of the early mayors. They're related to Grady Gamish. Harry, does everyone remember Harry Mitchell was like our longest and most popular mayor ever? So you're related to Harry Mitchell's dad.
No relationship found.
Therefore, you're related to him.
Yeah, because he's from Fort.
Okay, if you didn't have any connections to Tempe, then jump over to your other set of grandparents.
Like Charles
Well,
Hayden,
my
you have a
grandparents are
connection
from
to him. Gary,
Puerto
I mean,
Rico
Grady
and then
Gamish.
France.
Okay,
There's
if your
like
ancestry,
nothing else.
if your ancestry is from Western
I'm a
or,
first generation.
if you have ancestry from Western or Northern Europe,
Yeah.
then you're gonna be related to
And so,
early settlers. of
this is
Tempe.
your line, and this is
Somebody
his
shows
line.
two people I've
So,
never heard of.
let's see how far back.
Let me try my mom's side.
Okay, so
That
this
might
is the
be it.
common ancestor,
Okay.
William Gaylord. These are
Reverend
siblings,
Romulus,
first cousins, second cousins,
that's it.
third
Think she was-
cousins,
that's been my
fourth
father.
cousins, fifth cousins.
Aw.
So, fifth cousins.
These are the ones that came up as your
One,
match?
two,
Yeah.
three,
Aw, how cute my
four,
dad is.
It's a
five,
family tree.
six.
So then what I-
Six,
Let's go
so
back
fifth
up to where
cousin,
you
6
came.
times removed. Two.
Touch on one of those?
If you can provide more specific information, can you put a middle name?
No, I got him.
Oh, that is him.
That's him, that's
Okay,
him.
then touch him.
I did. That's how we get.
Okay, let it find the connection to Tempe settlers now. Oh, okay, I see.
Now,
You're
this is
actually
your,
on him.
this is,
Did you get yours?
well, I didn't do anything because I let your mother. Okay, then what they did is they went, you put in him, and they found your mother was
Okay.
Catholic, so it's really, it would be 6 generations. I mean, 5 generations.
So those are the people.
5 times
It says two relationships.
Yeah. You have your direct across
Oh, okay,
connection,
these are
and
the
there's
Tempe
several
settlers, so
generations.
you're related to two, so you can just touch
Yeah.
one.
How could that possibly be?
Yeah.
And
so
now it's gonna
he's,
show
He's
you-
related to your mom.
So here is your grandparent,
Yeah,
and here is,
that's my mother.
here's the
Your
Tempe
Grandpa
settler.
Anderson's name.
And so now you come up and it's like, this is
Fifth cousin.
the common ancestor, so here's the siblings and first
Oh,
cousin,
for him.
second, third,
Nathan.
fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 3 times removed. Okay, so while you're intrigued
Nathan Gill.
and having fun with this, let me just remind you, you did not log into anything, right?
Right.
You just shot the QR code, you went there, you put in very limited information, and some of you were trying to fumble around and make it work, but really in 2 minutes, you can be looking at how you're related to Tempe settlers. And sometimes they're close. If I do it, I can discover that I'm related to one of the Tempe settlers where he's my 3rd great grandfather, and it's like, that's pretty darn close, you know? So anyway, but what you can do now is you can play with this on your own. If you shoot the middle QR code, you can do the connected Mesa and see how you're related to Mesa settlers. And you can also do the last one, which is connected Gilbert, and see how you're related to Gilbert settlers.
Who would just erase this whole thing?
Yeah, you can just start again. You'd have to shoot the QR code. You can put anybody in, you know, when you're on one of these, you can put anybody in. You can put in your neighbor's information and look theirs up. So, how do we use this? What we do is, if we just give them this card and tell them this would really be fun to do, and they take it home, they do it, it just becomes amusement and intrigue, and it doesn't go any further than that. What we want to use this for is we want to use this to give them an opportunity to feel the Spirit. We also want it to open the door of their heart to their ancestors. Enough so that their ancestors are going to come calling on them at night when they're asleep. And so what we do on that is, if you have, when I was looking at yours, you had these ancestors. When you look at how your grandparent is related to a Tempe settler, and it's showing you the relative finder, it's going up the tree to the common ancestor, right? Pay attention that every one of those generations listed in that relative finder is a hyperlink. And somebody's, I think it was on Pat's, I touched it, and it opened a bio. Opened the bio on your grandfather. You can, so what we do is people, this is what happens to the people. We do many booths in our civic events. And we've done this to thousands of people.
So what do I do?
And I can tell you what happens to people. They're fascinated. Sometimes it's difficult to get them to try the tool because just like you said, no, I'm not even gonna try. There's no way I'm related to anybody in Tempe. I came out here from Pennsylvania 5 years ago, and I'm the only one that came out here. All my family's back. There's no way. And it's like, no, there's a way. In fact, you're almost assuredly related. Let's just do it. And only because we say it takes only 2 minutes, they're like, whatever, get this guy off my case, you know. And then they're blown away. Whoa, you're related to the founder. But it's this cousin relationship, right? So they're really intrigued by it, but we can see it in their face and we can see it in their questions. They're really much more intrigued about, I didn't know there was so much information known about my family. I feel like I know nothing about my family. I recognize my great-grandparents' name. But you're showing me many generations beyond that. I don't even recognize those names. I want to see your database. I want to see, you can tell they're feeling straitjacketed by they're only looking at a silo of their family. Like, let me see the breadth. Let me see what your database has about my family.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Wow.
So they're on their phone, okay? Now we whip our phone out and we've got our family tree already open with the fan chart. And we're like, oh, kind of like this. We show them a fan chart at that point. And then we quickly explain in like 10 seconds how to read the fan chart. And their eyes are popping out. And you can see it on their face, or they straight out ask you, how can I get one of those? And that's when we say, we have a Tempe Family Search Center where our volunteers are eager to help you build your fan chart. Everything's free. If we could arrange a time for you to come, we'd love to help you get your fan chart. And so many, many people sign up to come into the center and to get their fan chart. When they do that, we never talk to them about the gospel. Never, even on the 25th visit, we don't ever say anything. We just help them find their family, knowing they're feeling the Spirit every time, and knowing the more we help open their heart to their ancestry, that ancestry is going to come calling on them in the night and help work on the cobwebs that are in their brain that make them think negatively about us or about the Book of Mormon or whatever. That heavy lifting, I think, belongs to the Holy Spirit. So, if we do nothing, then this is just an amusing experience and that's the end of it. If we use it as a helper-led experience, where we stay with them and we walk them through it, and then we point out, we have to make it happen, we point out, did you notice these are all hyperlinks? Look what happens if you touch your great-grandmother here. And they're like, whoa, a bio comes up, and here's some photos, and here's a bunch of relationships, you know, her parents and her siblings and children and all this stuff. And then they start getting concerned, well, a lot of my line here doesn't have any photo. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of sad. A lot of families have been uploading their photos. We also do that in our center. We help people get their memories and to sharpen them up and upload them so that, you know, they're preserved forever with these people. And they're like, wow, that just sounds fantastic. And so now they're fixated on, I got to get to this center and I got to get help. I need a fan chart. And we have fan charts at our booths, you know, big ones where they can kind of really study it. And so we have tremendous success. So I'm just saying the engagement is very different, right? Than just hitting them straight up about the gospel and have them straightway say, not interested.
Did you say this is a place that you've established? What I missed.
Well, every stake should have a family search center.
Within the stake. So
this is our Tempe stake.
And so do you invite, you're inviting people to the stake center then? The people, so when we give people a card, and they're like, oh wow, this is cool, and then you invite them to the stake center to go and check out their family.
Or the family center, search center at the Temple Visitor Center.
Right.
It doesn't matter where they go. We have a business card, I guess I didn't bring one. We have a business card for our Family Search Center. And it just says that we help people find their family and preserve their
I mean,
their
anybody
memories.
that has a computer can literally, any computer you can get onto Family Search and get anything that you can get anywhere else, correct?
No,
No.
that's not true.
Okay, I'm asking more
Yeah,
than,
the Family Search Centers have extra value. So when you run in the center, you're running the portal records. When you run at home, you run against everything, but you are denied access to the images from counties that sell their information. They don't give it out for free.
gotcha.
Now Maricopa County, in Arizona, I think we just give it out, okay? It's part of public service. There's a lot of counties that want to recoup the money that they spent digitizing everything, and you gotta buy it. So to make Family Search work, the church needs to enter into like 5-year licensing agreements with all these counties so that their records can run unobstructed in Family Search, but in the Family Search portal. They're not buying it for the whole world. So the licensing agreement with the church is those records can run in our centers. So when you come into the center, you will actually
Get
potentially
more.
have more images. The indexes will be the same, but to look at the images from the county records, you will not get everything. You will not get anything from the counties that sell the information.
If you're at home, does it say, oh, hey, if you go to the center, you can see
No.
there's an image here?
No, it doesn't tell you
Oh,
that.
no,
There's this counties all over the country.
that's interesting.
Counties all over the country. Some
And
sell
other
the information,
countries too,
some,
correct?
some give it free. What's that?
And other countries as
Other
well.
countries too.
Are
Okay,
these-
so we view the, I'm sorry,
Are
question?
these things something you've developed, or is there something for different places in the country that you can do this on, or is this?
Oh, yeah, we've helped do Connected Baltimore, Connected Boston. We've been spreading these all over.
How many of them were related to Grady Gamage?
Me. And Charles
Most of us.
Hayden too.
It was
And Charles
way
Great
back
damage.
there, but.
Yeah.
Charles Hayden.
I have 12 people that I'm,
Yeah.
a whole
Does every
slew of
family
them.
history center have, like, can they do a fan chart? A big one?
Well,
About this size.
what, no, hold on a sec. So you can get the fan chart as a software copy, right, a digital file, okay? And with that digital file, so you save it to a flash drive, essentially, rather than print it. Most Family Search Centers don't have a big printer. We invested in a big printer. We have an 11 by 17 color printer, so we can print one that's a double size sheet of paper, about like this size, okay? But most can't do that.
Most of them can.
No, they can only just do like this, and it'll be black and white. We can do color, double this size. If you want a really big one, then when you're in Salt Lake, you go into the main library and they'll send you away with a poster size color one for free. Or you can do it here. It's cheaper to do it here and not pay the airfare and just save it to your flash drive and go down to a copy center and pay the color price of a poster size. And you can do like we have on display in our center. My poster size one has been matted and framed nicely because it's one of the most important things we show people on their first visit, as we take them right to stand in front of it. It's about the size of that picture, the frame of the temple there. Actually, it's bigger than that, but it's pretty big. And all the way back to my 4th great-grandparents, the year of birth and death are even on that last band. And they all do the same thing. They're looking at all my grandparents to find, they're looking for a common set of grandparents to them. And I've been called out twice. Hey, That's my grandparents. So you know these 7-generation charts, right? They display every time you get in, and you're number 1, so there's 6 generations before you. Do you know how many people that is? If you subtract your parents, because they're not grandparents, there's 124 grandparents of yours on there.
16.
Of different generations. Your grandparents, your great, 2nd grade, 3rd and 4th grade. That's 124. And then plus your parents, that's 126 of your nearest ancestors. Packed on, just the genius of a fan chart, I love it. But anyway, we take them there and it's like, now you're having a big image. This is the goal. The goal is to discover these people in your family, and when you get, what trials did they conquer, what courage and resilience did they have to show, because you look at all those people and it funnels down to you, and so all that collective power and strength and courage is imbued in you as if you're their greatest creation. People are like, wow, you know, I need to get on a journey of discovery here. So we kind of ignite that spark to help open their heart, and then we just love them and help them when they come into the center. Any questions about that?
People in general think that it's insurmountable to know too much beyond your grandparents or maybe your great grandparents. They kind of don't realize that you can really, just in general, I mean, it seems like we forget about our ancestors, and we in the church are reminded about it, but the general public sure isn't. So I can imagine, I haven't seen what you have, but I would imagine you've seen a lot of people kind of just freak out a little bit and go, wow.
Yeah, when you mention that, it makes me think of how many times my heart has really been touched at the reactions of people. I was telling you about my dad. My dad has been passed away for 11 years now, but I know my dad really well. And it's hard to tell you what it meant to me only a few weeks ago when I looked at his draft record on his 18th birthday. There's his signature signing up, to look at that. It's hard to explain what that does to you. And you're right, most people don't think anything about it, and most people know very little. Their knowledge of their family is almost limited to just their grandparents. Maybe they've heard some of the great-grandparents' names bounce around but know nothing about them, and they know nothing beyond that. And they feel that sense of ignorance. And when you expose it in something like this, and you let their tree run back, even though it's just a silo, you let it run way back, and they're like, whoa, somebody knows a lot about my family. How come I don't know any of this? I want to see what you have, So what do we encounter? One of the things that you'd be surprised is the number of people who are adopted and have they have something core within them, a need to know who they are, birth-wise. Who's my biological father and mother? And where do I fit in? People that love the family and are grateful for the family they were raised with, but just need to know who are my people, and they really want to know what happened and why did they not want me, or they couldn't keep me, and so those people have a whole different reaction. And Shirley was working with one, and we caught him at a booth, and he couldn't wait to come in, and he came right in, and he sat down, and she was helping him, and they got going along, and then he started getting distressed. And Shirley kind of comforted him a little bit, and they forged ahead. And then he finally just stopped and got really emotional and said, I'm sorry, I cannot continue this right now.
So it shows up whether you're adopted or not?
What was that situation? That wasn't adoption, was it? Or what was it?
No, that one wasn't adoption. I think he just had some underlying pain that was coming to the surface.
Yeah, you can have families where there's been abuse or serious trauma or whatever. And
I
so,
think he felt like he was never really wanted. It was just bringing back some.
it was bringing stuff right to the surface. So we have very interesting experiences, but there's a lot of people where they're just all in on this. They just cannot get enough of it. And it's really rewarding.
Is
People
there any
really-
connection that develops with the church? Do any of these people, how many of these people develop a connection with the church? Because this is, the church is not mentioning this at all.
Yeah, that remains to be seen. That's kind of a long-run picture, and we're kind of short-run into this. We've been doing this for about 3 years. We do have one person down our street who has joined the church through this. He was, anytime he was invited to anything religious, no, I don't do that. But then when we asked, can we help you build your family tree, I'm all in. I'm all in for that. He didn't mind coming into the
Very
building.
religious.
So,
Yeah,
in the
lots of
first 90-minute session,
religious
he walked out with a fan chart that was complete through 5 generations. He had a 5-generation fan chart. That was complete through all of his great-great-grandparents. And he was just on cloud 9. And so, every single time after that the center was open, he got himself there. He kept going in on his own, getting more and more help. And the more he did that, the more enthralled he was in the Spirit. And just 2 weeks after that first visit, he figured out a way. He still hasn't told me how he did it. He figured out how to contact the sister missionaries, who he had turned down months earlier when they wanted to teach him about the church. And he said, I want you to come and teach me everything about the church. He then began to be taught in our home, and he was an investigator that was reading the Book of Mormon. And he got baptized 3 months later, having finished the Book of Mormon cover to cover.
Wow.
And he's still active in the church, serves in his calling, he's endowed, and
Oh, wow.
he loves to work on his family history.
Man.
So-
He's endowed? Is he a older gentleman?
He's probably about maybe 5 or 6 years older than me. So a great guy. Anyway, the experiences we have are all over the board. But I just want you to realize, so we didn't invent this thing. This was inspired by the Lord in answer to our inquiries about how can we engage our neighbors in a way that will open up most people rather than shut them down and make them flee. And if we can open them up, then how can we quickly bring them into a situation where they'll feel the Spirit? Because so many people, I don't know if you know, we know from expansive church surveys, we know that well more than half of Americans have some degree of negative attitude about our church. So when you have that stacked against you, and there's nothing you can say that's going to change that, right? Because you can say what you want as a member, and they have what they've been told. So there's the impasse. But there's a way around that impasse, the Holy Spirit. Remember Doctrine and Covenants 8:2, I'll tell you in your mind and in your heart. We're talking about thoughts and feelings, 2 different channels of communication, right? And when we're talking to them and trying to get them to read the Book of Mormon or listen about the church, we're engaging the thinking. And what we're doing now through this inspiration is we're working on the feeling side. We're saying, let's find out a discovery journey about your family. Let's find your family and build this fan chart. And they get so drawn into that and they start feeling the Spirit that they do like Chester. And they say, wow, I just feel like there's something about this church, you know. So he's a rare case, you know. We don't expect that to happen all the time. But it shows the power of someone that is dead set against organized religion. It only took him 2 weeks of nobody saying anything, just 2 weeks of feeling the Spirit and having his heart come alive with family before the family did something to him. And it's like, I gotta have it all.
Cracked his nut.
Yeah, they came after him
Yeah.
from the other side.
Where do you find the QR codes to get started?
Well, I've given them to you on that paper.
Yeah, are they for like Phoenix or Scottsdale?
No, we don't have Phoenix and Scottsdale. We can make them. We can make them.
You can.
We can make them. We have a whole list of all over the country of ones we've made.
That's what I'm wondering about.
So you want Scottsdale or Phoenix?
Both.
We'll put in an order.
You're right on
Okay.
the border.
Right, right.
So we can
Okay.
just contact you and you can, okay?
Yeah, you can write down my name and phone number, my phone number if you want to write it down.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's find
Here's
a
the
writing
pen.
instrument here.
Here.
480-907.
I've got a card. and he's-
Oh, you have some cards. Good for you.
A few.
Oh,
907-4919.
okay.
Do you have any way of,
4919.
Let's see what
He wants his
Get my
pen.
pen back.
I can.
do you have any way of following up with people that come to a booth and say, oh, this is neat? Do you
We have
see any
we have a referral slip.
that they fill out?
They fill out a referral slip. When they are interested enough that they say, I want to come to the center and get help getting my fan chart, they really want the fan chart, okay? And they're willing to risk coming inside the church building to get it, you know? And we assure them it's free. So they're willing to sign up to do it, and then we reach out and contact them after we're back from the booth, and we set up a time for them to come.
Yeah, we have a lady that's been coming in every week now for a while. Her husband died about a year ago or so, and she's been coming in, and I really enjoy her. We have fun.
This lady is our age, and we met her at the Peterson House. Do you know the Peterson House? It's the big Victorian home on the corner
On
of
the
Southern
corner.
and Priest.
Yeah, I know.
It's kind of one of the most famous
Yeah, I know
homes
that
in
house.
Arizona for who lived there and who's visited that home. But anyway, every year Tempe opens that home up for the first 3 weekends in December as a Christmas, you know, a Danish Christmas, and it's free to do a walkthrough tour. And so we have a booth there, and we met her there last Christmas, and she was so excited about our experience, but she is really weepy because her husband had just died. And she said, I want to come to your center, and I want to become part of your staff, you know. But I need a couple months to get through this really weepy time. So we reached out 2.5 months later, and she's been coming every week ever since.
So
How long after someone dies is the name available?
For what?
Someone dies today. How long will it be before you have access to that person's name?
Yeah, now that's another fun thing. I'll give you the short story. I'll give you the 30-second story on that one. In our center, we put those people in very quickly. We use it as training. When you're trying to learn how to start a tree, we want to build up skill in our stake of how to start a tree. Because when you use this tool on your neighbors, then it'd be nice if you could help them, you know, be the one to help them build their tree. So to do that, you need only very basic skills. So, but you can't practice in Family Search, you know, a make-believe tree, no, you know. So what we do is we have Glenn Tolman, I think he spoke to you last time, right? Glenn has agreed to be our trainer on Thursday nights in the center. That's when he's on shift, and we can send people there, and he gives them our obituary training. What he does is he shows them, you go out to the Arizona Republic, you grab the most built-out obituary you can find, got all the information on the parents too, you know. You grab that obituary and you bring up Ancestry and you bring up Family Search, and he'll show you how to start. you got a ton of facts in there. You write out all your facts, and he shows you what you start with in Ancestry and then what you carry over to Family Search. And he said, people think that he's a great researcher. He said, I'm a lazy researcher. I know what Ancestry is really powerful at, and I know what Family Search is really powerful. And I play them again. I start over here and it gives me my result. I plug it in over here, it gives me all this stuff. I chase that till the end, and then I come back over here when I need some more. He says, I'm just sitting here like the referee, you know, letting these tools do all the work. In the meantime, what he's doing though is he's taking a person that just barely died and he's building the first few generations of their fan chart. So in a limited case, Brother Jarvis, we're helping people that just barely died to right away get in Family Search and have a tree, because we've got people in our stake that are building, you know, those fan charts. Now, he told me that a couple of times he's had a family member reach out and say, hey, thanks for, you know, memorializing my father, you know, what you did to, you know, preserve his memory. I think he said there was one time someone said, can't you let a grieving widow have a little bit of time?
Oops.
Oh, well, but we use it for training because we're not putting in make-believe stuff, right? We're training on a person that just barely died is the same experience building it out as if my neighbor that lives next door who's still alive agrees to come in and do it. It's the same process, right? So we get to practice on people that we can do it on because they're now deceased.
Yeah, it teaches you how to use Family Search and
So we have a lot going on in our center. We kind of built up our scanning capabilities too, so we have a lot of scanners, and we can scan anything that the Temple Visitor Center can. We can do the old home movies and cassette tapes and videos and large photos. We can scan on our big color printer the up to 11 by 17 color photos. We have a document feeder scanner for when people have big stacks of snapshots and stuff. So we can do slides and negatives. Now the last thing, while you have your phones out, have you already done the fun of seeing how you're related to each other? Should we end with doing that?
that is fun.
I'm never related to anything.
So if you want to open up your Family Tree app, if you have it. Do you know the Family Tree app? It's that little
Yeah.
tree. Open that up and go to the menu and just hit Relatives Around Me on the menu. And then you have to click the button Scan for Friends.
Yeah, the family tree.
Michael O'Brien is my 10th cousin.
Where does it say relatives around?
Are you in the Family Tree app?
Yeah.
Yes, there it is, right, I'm Lowell.
See.
Lowell Heaton is my 11th cousin twice removed.
So let's see.
Yeah, Lowell's my 8th cousin. Ricky Haywood is my 9th
Oh, there
cousin.
we go, yeah. Sandra Wharton, we're not related, sorry.
So does it say
We're only related by meatballs.
find a person? What,
Hey, well,
what do you
that's
look
saying
under?
something.
What is it? Find a person?
Okay, all those people.
No, relatives around me.
Oh, there it
All
is.
the relatives
And then scan.
that are not, I'm not related to.
But look at now,
We can
you're
still be
related to
friends,
Tom.
I know,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not.
We're 11th cousins once removed.
I'm pretty much
Okay.
related to everybody in
Okay,
here.
what's the closest you're
Sister
seeing? I'm
Jarvis
seeing
and
some
my
8th
wife.
cousins.
You're not
I've got a
related.
second cousin,
I'm
You have a
not
second
Really?
related to you.
Once removed.
once
So
removed.
you
How could I
have
not
Who's
be
your second
married to my
Yeah, Kyle and I are
Oh my goodness.
I'm a convert.
second cousin
know
once
that.
My
removed.
parents.
Well, you already knew that then, didn't you?
But
No, we
You didn't
didn't.
know that? Oh
I
my
actually thought I was more related to Janet than.
So second cousin means you're descended
Kyle
from
and
the
I.
same great-grandparents.
Well,
Well, you're related
I was
to
adopted, so,
Heaton.
it's the
That
family.
Okay, well,
works.
once you
Family
get sealed,
tree app.
yeah.
Oh, Family Tree,
Yes.
that's Family Search.
You're related to everyone except for
Okay, I've never had it come out that close in a group like this and not already know
Family
it.
Tree,
All right, does anybody have anything between 2nd and
Not
8th?
even my own husband.
All mine were 10, 11.
You and I are 8,
Okay.
Ricky and I are 9.
And what is he?
I can see the resemblance.
So why do I come
From
up
the
on
red
mine?
planet.
Now that you shaved, I can say it.
Except for the pipes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you one fun thing about this. People in the church have a weird way of thinking that these relationships are somehow related to your being a member of the church. They have nothing to do with membership in the church. This is just pure family relationships, right?
Janet.
So people who are not a member of the church and they don't have any family in the church are just as related to everybody else as everybody else is, right? So this has nothing to do with the church.
Janet and I are third
We're third
cousins.
cousins.
Oh, wow, and you also didn't know that, right?
I thought I might be related to her, but I didn't know I was related to Kyle.
Okay.
I don't have
Yeah,
it.
you have some similarity looks.
You're from my dad's side.
I think from probably was.
I heard
The story from
many
the
stories of my dad.
trial and the gun
Oh my gosh. I wish
over,
my
wasn't it
dad
over
would've
water
written
rights or
this.
something like that?
Wish he would have written them all down. Get rid of it.
8th, 3rd.
Just not all the
Oh, you're
stories.
closer. Oh, wow.
We have this memoir.
Are they related?
We need the menu, we need the menu.
That's what I want to know.
Are you and Janet related?
Where's your
And
menu?
then
That's
Sarah.
Wow, you just barely made it. Woo!
Husband kind of
Oh,
robbed the cradle.
sign it in like
Yeah.
years or something.
Otherwise.
Sign into
And she was a widow.
Yeah,
young
you'll
and
sign
they
into
just
that,
bought
then you'll
a
get your
farm.
menu,
And
and then on the menu, you
See,
can
my
click relatives
grandma
around me.
Burgess. Did you say you had a card? She's buried out there.
Shirley, do you have any more cards?
okay.
I just had 3 and I went there.
Yeah, I knew we were related.
That's got our contact information on the back.
Maybe Pat, you were brought in.
Does
from
anybody else need a card?
spaceship,
Must have
From a
been.
different star system.
I know I was. Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna go, it's blindfold.
Did you ever have any dreams that you were from a red planet?
I should-
Because I did.
Brian is my name.
I gotta find my people.
Why can't you have my people?
Oh, I found my
And
people.
Leah.
Most of the time I just click on
Yeah.
there.
I found most of them.
Talking about all my family members who are
Got all their work.
I love you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
David
you're
Shin and
actively
Eric
work on
Ward.
family
Oh, all the time.
history and
Well, when
Temple
she's
work.
done,
Leah.
yeah,
Because I was
yeah,
one person.
she was a Bowles.
Right.
Oh,
Oh, are you a
Yes.
convert to the,
I do remember Brian.
So if you have our business
Sandhouse
card,
too.
this is the business card to our center. This QR code right here goes to, our Family Search Center has its own website. This goes to a website. It is not the Connected Tempe tool. It's a website that's to draw people in and figure out what is their specific topic of interest in family history and to start giving them guidance. So there's like 44 active links on this website. After we funnel you down to what your interest is, then it guides you to tools that help you do that. And there's a lot of I'm mentioning because if you go into our website, it works really well on a phone. You'd be surprised how awesome this site is on the phone. But you scroll down near the bottom of it to where there's the fun activities. And it only works if you have a well built out tree in Family Search, but there's a lot of fun games in there. And one of the fun ones is called Compare-A-Face. And if you upload a good photo of you, it'll analyze the 200 points on your face that are like a fingerprint that uniquely identify your face. And it'll compare it against the same 200 points on all your ancestor photos. And it'll line them up in the order of likeness. And on mine, it says, okay, your #1 match on a 55% match is your great-grandfather on your mother's side. Okay, so there's my #1 match, more than 50% the same.
What are they doing on there?
Now, what's my second strongest match at about 47% is my dad. Ooh, we switched to the other side of the family. And now who's my third strongest match? This one's dad. Isn't that weird? Okay, so blended face, right? Anyway, there's a lot of fun things in there, and So, you know, if you have the card, or if you want to shoot a copy of this QR code, we're throwing a lot of QR codes at you, but those 3 you're taking home are to the 3 different cities, the connected apps. This one is to our center website. Any questions before we wrap up?
Where do you have booths, you talk about this booth, what, is it like at city events or just sidewalk
Right.
events?
City events. So we connected to the Tempe Historical Society, and we did our first booth at Tempe's sesquicentennial, which was just a couple of years ago. And that was our first big booth, and they told us, that was a big citywide celebration. The city people told us that we were the most popular booth in the whole thing.
No kidding.
And people were just enthralled. Well, we had this photo here. We had this photo in a 6 foot tall, huge thing, and you would stand in front of it, and we'd take the photo on your camera, and you walk away where it looks like you were standing in Mill Avenue in 1900. And we had period hats for people to put on. So there was a lot of jazz about this tool. People were just blown away walking out, finding they're related to the founder of Tempe and Great Gamage and all this stuff. So anyway, we've been doing the Peterson House Christmas thing. That's 3 weekends, so that's 6 days every December. This will be I think our 4th time of doing it, coming up here. We have Tempe's Hayden Ferry Days, and this Saturday morning we'll be doing Tempe Old Settlers Association. They do their annual picnic, potluck. We'll be doing our booth there. Just every little thing that comes up, you know, that's community-wide event, we ask if we can have a booth there. And because of the nature of what we are, we're a nonprofit, we're just giving a free experience that enhances, you know, the citizenship. We don't ever pay anything.
They don't require you to pay.
We don't pay anything. They actually frequently, you're gonna come to this, right? Like,
oh, because you're a draw.
Wow.
they were having a special city event of honoring significant citizens. It was, what'd they call those people? Special awards for 6 chosen people that are like heroes. You know, they call them legends. Every year, I guess they honor 6 legends in the city. And boy, they were really making sure we were going to be there. They wanted this experience as part of this, because people were paying a lot of money to be at this black tie event thing, you know. And so yeah, we're happy anytime that they want us to do it, or when we ask to do it. So it's been great experiences.